Mr. Speaker, for the purposes of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, my good friend Mr. McGovern, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, during consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purposes of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Rules Committee met and reported a rule to expedite consideration of legislation that would deal with the imminent threat of the Zika virus. The rule provides that the House concurs in the Senate amendment with further amendment consisting of the text of H.R. 4974, H.R. 5243, and H.R. 897 as passed by the House, and provides a motion from the Chair of the Committee of Appropriations to request a conference with the Senate. Mr. Speaker, as I said last week, the debate between Republicans and Democrats is not over whether or not to address the Zika threat, but whether or not to pay for it, or just to add it to the national credit card. This rule would provide for a conference between the House and the Senate on the Zika response legislation as passed by the House, as opposed to the Senate approach, which adds an additional $1.2 billion to the national debt. The House acts responsibly by using existing funds designated for Ebola and other infectious diseases to pay for our response to the looming Zika threat. Mr. Speaker, many of my friends on the other side have claimed that House Republican response to the Zika threat has been wholly insufficient. Frankly, I disagree with that view. In our view, our response is really the second of 3 tranches of funds directed at Zika. First, Chairman Rogers, Chairman Granger, and myself directed the administration to use existing funds for Ebola and other infectious diseases to deal with the immediate threat. Thus far, the administration has used nearly $600 million to support efforts to combat Zika. The second tranche of money included in this legislation would provide an additional $622 million for Zika. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my colleagues that we'll commit additional resources in the FY 2017 appropriations process to ensure that the administration request is fully fulfilled, providing nearly $1.9 billion, the amount requested by the administration to combat Zika. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to reiterate that I do not disagree with my friends about the need to confront the Zika virus quickly. In fact, I've been to Brazil, I've been to Argentina, visited the infected areas, spent a lot of hours talking to our people on the ground there that are both investigating the disease and working with local governments to try and take care of some of the outbreak down there. And we've visited extensively with our friends up here at the National Institute of Health and the Center for Disease Control. The only difference I have with my friends is whether or not we pay for the activity. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that if we already have the resources to confront the crisis, which we do, we should do so within our existing capabilities as opposed to the deficit. I look forward to working with my colleagues in conference through regular order to ensure a bipartisan agreement can be reached. With that, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support the rule and the underlying legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.